At some point, you stopped asking when you'd feel okay about money and started just saving, putting money away, watching the number go up, hoping it meant something. That's not a plan. That's a savings account with no destination attached to it. And if you've been doing that for any amount of time, putting money somewhere and waiting to feel different, you already know it doesn't work. The number goes up, the anxiety doesn't go down, and you've got this vague sense that you're doing the right thing and it still isn't enough. Here's what nobody told you. Saving without a target doesn't work because your brain can't track progress toward a finish line that doesn't exist. There's no feedback loop, no score screen. The money leaves your checking account, it disappears into a savings account, and your brain just processes it as loss over and over until you stop. I did that for 3 years. I started at 42 grand a year, and I was putting money away dutifully every month like a responsible adult, and I had no idea if I was 5% of the way to okay or 50%. I just kept saving into the void and wondering why it didn't feel like anything. What I didn't have was a map. And that map, it exists. It has always existed. There are exactly 3 numbers between where most people are and what actually feels like financial freedom. Not $1 million. Not some number you'll hit at 65 if nothing goes wrong for the next 40 years. 3 specific thresholds where the math of your daily life changes, where your relationship with money changes, where the institutions that profit from your financial confusion, and I'm going to name them, specifically flip from treating you as a revenue event to treating you as a customer they have to compete for. They know what those numbers are. Chase knows. Your employer knows. The financial product industry knows. None of them put up a sign. 59% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency from savings. Not 59% of people in poverty. 59% of Americans, people with jobs, with checking accounts, with the best intentions, one bad Tuesday away from a credit card, charging 22% APR on every dollar you owe, and 27% have nothing saved at all, 0. You are watching a video about milestones. You are already ahead of most people in your orbit. This is not a video that's going to make you feel bad about where you are. This is the map, 3 numbers. Here's what changes at each one, and here's exactly who loses money when you cross it. Milestone 1. Call it crisis proof. You've probably heard that you need a $1,000 emergency fund. That number came from a guy selling a financial course. I'm not going to be subtle about that. Dave Ramsey's baby step 1 is $1,000, and I understand why it's achievable. It feels like a win. It gets people moving. But $1,000 does not cover a transmission repair. Call it $2,500 to $4,000. Depending on your car. It doesn't cover a medical bill after your deductible. It doesn't cover a month of rent in most cities. It covers one medium bad thing, and only if nothing else goes wrong that month. The real milestone 1 is 3 times your fixed monthly expenses. That's rent or mortgage, utilities, insurance, minimum debt payments, the bills that show up whether you work this month or not. For most people watching this, at 45 to 75 grand a year, that lands somewhere between 5 and 8 grand. That's the number. That's where a car breakdown becomes an inconvenience instead of a crisis. That's where an unexpected medical bill becomes an annoyance instead of 4 months of minimum payments. Now, I want to tell you something about keeping that money in the wrong place, because I did this for 8 months, and it cost me in a way that never showed up on any statement. I had 12 grand in a standard savings account, regular bank, the kind where you set up a direct deposit when you got the job and never thought about it again. I felt responsible. I was saving. I was doing the thing. And then one night I pulled up a spreadsheet. I was trying to figure out why my net worth felt like it was standing still, and I ran the actual numbers. 8 months, 12 grand, standard savings rate. What I'd earned, call it $40. What I would have earned in a high-yield savings account at 4%, around $320. What that 8 months of doing nothing had cost me, somewhere around $280 in that period alone, and if you trace it forward into an index fund over a decade, you're talking north of $600 in total foregone growth. Not because I made a bad decision, because nobody told me there was a different option. That's what sitting in the wrong account costs you, quietly, every month. No line item, no statement, no notification, just money that could have been yours staying at the bank. Here's the math. Chase pays you 0.01% APY on a standard savings account. On $7,500 right around M1, for this income range, that's 75 cents a year. I want you to sit with that. 75 cents on $7,500. Meanwhile, a high-yield savings account at 4%, that rate is available right now from multiple banks. No conditions pays you $300 a year on that same $7,500. The difference is $299 that Chase keeps for the privilege of holding your money. And what is Chase doing with your money while they're paying you 75 cents? Lending it. Personal loans at 12 to 20%, credit cards at 22. On your $7,500, Chase is generating somewhere between $750 and $1,500 a year off your deposit. Your cut, 75 cents. Everything else stays with them. Now here's the flip. Below Milestone. 1. Chase has another product for you. The overdraft fee. $34 per transaction. Every time you hit zero and something hits your account anyway, $34. The overdraft fee industry, and this is an industry, this is intentional design, generates billions every year. Not from wealthy customers, from the people who are below M1, who live close enough to zero that a timing issue becomes a transaction fee. That's not a bug in the system. That's the product. Cross Milestone 1. Keep it in a high-yield savings account. And the math inverts completely. Now Chase pays you $300 a year. No overdraft fees because you have a buffer. Same bank, totally different relationship. Below M1, you're a revenue event. Above M1, they're competing for your deposit. They knew which tier you were in the whole time. And look at $400 a month in savings. You are 18 months from Milestone 1. 18 months, not years. Not a number that requires something to go right that has never gone right before. 18 months of boring consistency and the first system flip happens. Milestone 2. Call it job optional. Somewhere between 25 and 50 grand saved liquid. Accessible, not locked in a retirement account. Something shifts in your relationship to your employer. Not your job, your employer. Here's something your employer knows about you right now that you might not have fully priced in. They know exactly what it costs to replace you. On average, 50 to 200% of your annual salary in recruiting fees, training time, lost productivity during transition. On a 60 grand salary, that's anywhere from 30 to 120 grand to replace you. They have a very strong incentive to keep you. The problem is they also know whether you can afford to leave. And below M2, most people can't, which is why the vesting schedule exists. 51% of employer 401k plans have a vesting delay. That means the money your employer contributes to your retirement, the free money everyone tells you to maximize, isn't actually yours yet. Under a 3-year cliff vesting schedule, which 9% of plans use, you get 0% of employer contributions if you leave before year 3. 0. Under a 6-year graded schedule, you're earning it slowly, but leave at year 4 and you're still leaving a chunk behind. Do the math on what that means. 60 grand salary, 4% employer match, that's $2,400 a year your employer puts in. Under a 3-year cliff, if you leave at month 30, you forfeit $6,000 in employer contributions. Stay for the full 3 years, and the number your employer is holding over you is $7,200. You know what that number is called in the HR department? Retention tool. That's the line item. $7,200 is why you stay in the job with the bad manager for 1 more year. $7,200 is why you accept the 2.1% raise when the market rate for your role is $8 grand higher. The vesting schedule is a financial handcuff, and it works because below Milestone 2, you cannot afford to test what else is out there. Cross M2, and the handcuff loses its grip. Not because the vesting schedule changes, it doesn't, but because 35 grand in savings at a 60 grand income is 7 months of covered expenses. You can absorb a job loss. You can decline a bad offer. You can take 3 months to find the right role instead of the closest available one. You don't have to leave. You just have to be able to. That's the entire shift. Here's what people miss about that leverage, and I want to be specific here because people treat M2 like it's just security, and it's so much more than that. If being able to negotiate gets you even a 5 grand better salary, and realistically, people with runway tend to negotiate raises 5 to 10 grand higher than people without it. That 5 grand compounds over 10 years of raises and retirement contributions into 50 grand or more in additional lifetime earnings. Your savings account didn't just sit there. It worked a second job negotiating on your behalf 24 hours a day, whether you were thinking about it or not. The HR document that tells you your vesting schedule is called the Summary Plan Description. It is in your benefits portal right now. Most people have never read it. Your employer is counting on that. Milestone 3. Call it money making money. 100 grand invested. I know you've seen the compound interest video. You know the math works. What the compound interest video never shows you is who loses when you cross this number, or why the financial product industry has spent considerable effort making sure this milestone feels impossibly far away. Here's the mechanical shift. At 100 grand invested, at a conservative 8% annual return, the 30-year historical average for the S&P 500 is over 10%. We're using 8 to be conservative. Your portfolio generates 8 grand a year without you adding another dollar. That's $667 a month in passive growth. Most people watching this are saving somewhere between $300 and $600 a month, which means above milestone 3, the market is contributing more to your wealth every month than you are. You haven't changed your behavior. The math changed. That's not motivation. That's arithmetic. And I remember the first time I checked my account and realized the growth column was larger than my contribution column for that month. It's a genuinely strange feeling. You keep waiting for someone to correct it. Let that number land for a second. $667 a month. The market working for you every month, whether you're paying attention or not. Year 10 at 8%, your 100 grand becomes 215. You added 115 grand without contributing another dollar. Year 20, 466. Year 30, just over $1 million. All from that single crossing. Now, here's who loses when you cross it. The financial advisory industry charges an average of 1% of assets under management for accounts under $1 million. On a 100 grand account, that's $1,000 a year. VOO or VTI, Vanguard's index funds, which track the exact same S&P 500 that your expensive advisor is trying to beat, charge 0.03%. On a 100 grand, that's $30 a year. Not 1,000, 30. The delta is $970 a year. For what? Quarterly phone calls and a pie chart. And historically, actively managed funds underperform index funds over 10-year periods about 80% of the time. So you're paying $970 extra for worse performance. $970 a year compounded at 8% over 20 years is 47 grand. That's roughly a year of college tuition. Staying in that managed fund instead of moving to an index is a 47 grand decision made once that most people never realize they made. Fidelity's full-service advisory minimum is $250. Below M3, you're not their client anyway, you're a robo-advisor customer, or you're on your own. Cross M3, and suddenly they want a meeting. Same institution, different tier. The complexity is not there to help you. The complexity is the product. If you knew 3 milestones and 2 fund tickers, they'd lose the fee. Here's the trajectory. If you're saving $400 a month right now, and that is a real number, not an aspirational one, at 45 to 75 grand a year, that's achievable with the right account structure, you can reach milestone 3. In a high-yield savings account at 4%, $400 a month gets you to 100 grand in about 15 years. In an index fund at 8%, you cross 100 grand in 13 years. Same $400 a month, 2 years faster, because the return is compounding at 8 instead of 4. You do not need to change how much you save to change when you get there. You need to change where it lives. So here's what you actually do this week. Not a list, a sequence of 4 moves in order of how much they matter right now. The first thing you do is calculate your real M1 number, not $1,000, yours. Pull up your bank statements, fixed monthly expenses, rent, utilities, insurance, minimum debt payments. Add them up. Multiply by 3. Write that number down somewhere you'll see it. That's your target. That's the finish line your brain has been missing. 15 minutes. No account to open, no money to move. Just a number where there was a void. The second move, and if you're currently sitting in a standard savings account, this is the highest return 30 minutes you'll spend this year. Open a high-yield savings account. Axos, SoFi, Marcus, Newtek, all paying 4% or better as of this recording. No conditions, FDIC insured. Link your existing bank. Set up a recurring transfer. Done. On 5 grand, you just went from earning 50 cents a year to earning $200. On 7,500, from 75 cents to 300. Chase keeps the difference every single day you wait to move it. 30 minutes. That's the job. Now the third move, and this one costs you nothing but 10 minutes. Find your 401k summary plan description in your benefits portal or ask HR for it. It's your legal right to have it. You want one number. How many years until you're fully vested? That number tells you exactly what your employer is holding over you and when the handcuff comes off. Information is leverage. Not knowing is what they're counting on. Last thing, and this is the one most people skip, a fund check. If you are currently investing in a managed fund, meaning a fund with a human manager, not an index fund, look up the expense ratio. It'll be in the fund's prospectus or just Google the fund name plus expense ratio. If it's above 0.1%, you are paying for complexity that the data says you don't need. VTI or VOO, 0.03%. If you're at 100 grand, moving from a 1% managed fund to an index saves you $970 a year. Every year, compounding forward. 3 milestones, 3 system flips. Milestone. 1 kills the overdraft fee model. Below it, you're a revenue event every time something goes wrong. Above it, the bank pays you and the emergency costs what it costs, nothing more. Milestone. 2 kills the vesting handcuff. Below it, your employer knows you can't afford to test the market. Above it, you can. And they know it, and every conversation you have at that job changes. Milestone. 3 kills the you need us narrative from the financial product industry. Below it, you need them or you think you do. Above it, the market is contributing more to your portfolio than you are. Index funds do the job for $30 a year, and the only thing their fees buy you is the feeling of being managed. You don't need a $2 million net worth to feel financially free. That goalpost was designed to feel unreachable because if you're always chasing a number you can't see, you stay confused, and confused people buy products. You need 3 numbers. Now you have them.